already also here in the, I guess it's still fall here in December, but in the darkness when it's before 6 o'clock. We've got riding mower overload here, and I'm going to get to the title of the video, which is leveling one of these Craftsman decks here in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to give you all a quick aside for those who follow my channel. You know that this mower looks familiar. This is the one that I did a 3-part series on that did a lot of deck work too, and a lot of other things too that I mentioned in the previous video that I had sold. But I guess I decided that I thought the deck was level and it's actually not. And so the person was cutting grass, and I think it was making it look like racetracks, if you know what I mean, with banking on the yard. So what I did is I always say, if you got any issues with it, let me know. I always try and keep all of my customers happy, the ones that buy from me. And so what we agreed on, if you remember, I traded this mower for a gray Craftsman and a limited edition Craftsman. It had the electric PTO clutch and all that on it. They're sitting over here in the darkness that y'all can't see now. Actually, only one of them is. I got the gray one fixed for her. I took it back to her and then brought this one back, and she let me keep the limited edition LT 1750 that has the hydrostatic transmission and the PTO clutch and stuff on it. That most likely just needs a deck spindle and the deck leveled on that as well. So still not getting a bad trade out of it. Probably lost maybe about $150 or so. That mower only needed a new battery. It had corrosion and loose terminals on the battery. She thought it was a starter solenoid that was going out. But that was not the case. So about an hour and a half of work, had a battery in it, put a rear tire tube in it, sent it back on its way. So thankfully that was an easy fix, getting it all done before. I'm not going to be here for a few days, so here we go. And I've already done it on this mower, which I found horribly unlevel as well. I can't believe I missed all this whenever I did these mowers. But again, I haven't done riding mowers in about 4 or 5 years. So what I did to level the deck, and then, well, I'll tell you, it's pretty obvious whether or not your deck is most likely not level. Let's see if we can see it here. If you look at this deck, you can kind of see where the right side of it is lower visually than the left side of it. And so what it was doing, it was cutting racetrack grooves, I guess you can call it. So if you do a visual inspection, that's not always the case depending on the deck design, but for the most part, these decks are relatively even all the way across with the blades, at least for these Craftsmans, because I measured them. Measured it on that riding mower over there that I showed you. So what I have done is I raised it all the way up to the top. And, you can get a tape measure in there. I've seen somebody get a wood block in there and with some markers and stuff on them. What I have done, or what I did, was actually grabbed an oil filter box like this ST3614 oil filter from Walmart. And what this does, I might have to grab a flashlight for y'all, is it's not a perfect representation of what, or a measurement. However, what it does, at least in my experience with the previous mower, get that light right there for you, is that these blades are up here. So let's see if I can do this with one hand here, holding this up. As I put this oil filter down here and just saw how close it was in relation to the blade. I mean, it is just like very rudimentary. But so if I put it right here and see how close it is in relation to the blade, You can already see the massive difference by just putting it on level ground here. I go over here and it's already like touching. I mean, that's a good half-inch difference right there, just from the point of the where the blade is right here and the point of where the blade is right here. I mean, it's not rocket science, but there's a good half-inch difference here. You can get other methods. This is the method that I have used so far. And what I do is I'll measure the height at each corner. So like right here on the side by the deck chute, as well as on the other end near the middle of the mower, and then also on the back. You can see how like that's so far off it's embarrassing actually, because you're a good 1 inch. So the front of this deck needs to be raised up a decent amount, and then I can look on the far end down there. I'm gonna have to give y'all, just relax for a second, and I'm gonna move this on the far end. Again, use whatever measurement device that you would like to use, but I mean that's way off. So this, in essence, this whole front corner of the deck is pretty far off. So, and I'll check the other side as well. But let me show y'all what the adjustment mechanisms are here. I'll lower the deck back down. So the right front of the deck needs to be put up. We at least know that much. There's a lot of being on your knees as well. So you see that nut right there that had the light shining on right there. That is a 9/16 inch nut. What it does is it raises the back of the deck up. So if you want the front of the deck to be just a tinge lower than the back of the deck, because what that does is it protects your blades and allows rocks and stuff not to get under and then potentially hit the blades. It helps minimize that chance. So there's one on this side, there's one on the other side, and then also on this side for the front of the deck to raise it up, which is what we are going to do. There are these 3/4 inch nuts on each side holding this little, I guess a coupler on it, or the linkage on, right? So we're gonna tighten this up. And what I usually do, and it's the same for both sides, so if the right front is low on your deck, you want to adjust this, and your left front is low, adjust that. Right rear, adjust that nut that I showed you. Left rear, adjust the one on the opposite side. Just kind of common sense. We're going to check the other side, but we are going to actually, what we can do is take this off. Take the pin off. I might have to grab let's see if this wrench will do it. Yeah. Take the pin off, and you can take this deck bracket off here. You just have to be kind of careful. I'll get it off in a second. But I'm going to measure the other side, and I'll share with you kind of what I find. And because there's nothing else wrong with the mower. Y'all saw me fix it in previous videos. So I'm going to fix this and throw it back up for sale and see if anybody wants it. But let me do the rest of the measurements around the deck, and then I'll show you which ones I'm going to adjust. Okay, so what I have done now is I have taken both pins out, both cotter pins, out of the right front of the mower deck. And now I'm taking the arm off. What I like to do is I like to bring it over here to the vice grip, because these get really, they don't get rusted on, but they get tight. You get dirt and dust and stuff on them. I do is like to put them in a vice grip. And put the nut before the, I guess the mounting point. It's kind of a three-part system here. Three-quarter-inch ratchet, deep well socket. And I like to break it loose like this. It's going to give you some resistance, so don't be afraid to go nuts with it, which is a bad pun, but so see these threads are a little caked with dirt. I'm gonna find a wire brush real quick. I'm gonna knock some of this rust off. You get a 3/4 inch wrench and you can adjust that inward. So we're going to adjust it inward, and we're going to, what that'll do is it will allow the, grab the wrench real quick. It'll allow the deck to raise up in the front, which is what we're trying to do here, especially on the left side. The side to side, I've noticed, is fine. The rear looks pretty good. We might have to adjust that a little bit. Okay, so we're going to take this and just move it in some, which will be moving it to the right. We're going to move it in a few threads, maybe about right there. It's kind of a guess and check. But the hardest part by far is just the original getting the nut off of the mower, or getting the nut off of this bracket here. Getting the bracket off of the mower sometimes too. A little bit of lube also helps sometimes. I think we're going to be alright here though. I mean, it's to come up a fair amount too, so we're going to try this first. We're not going to tighten it all the way. We're going to make it so that it's still a little bit of give. That way, this also, maybe put it back on, this coupler, I guess, mounting point. You can spin it around and stuff, so you have that freedom. So let's put it back on to the mower now. Stepping all my decks in here and hold on, screw up others, but let's put this on to the mower again. Put y'all right there. And you're probably going to have a little bit of resistance from, goes in that middle hole back there, because you're trying to like physically pull the deck forward as you're doing this, so it's probably going to give you some resistance. See if lowering the deck actually helps it out a little bit. I might have gone a little too far. Maybe even putting some sort of like block under it would help it some to get it up for us. Let's see if that is. We're trying to get the deck to move forward, which I think I've gone a little too far. So let me back off of this a little bit. I might try it from this and pull the deck forward. Let's see if that works better. Yeah, I think I've gotten it a little bit too far up. So let me back it off a little bit. Back this nut off a little bit, and then we'll tighten it down some. Alright, so I've got the cotter pins and stuff back in on the deck there. So I got the cotter pins and stuff back in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this nut over here and I'm going to tighten it. Tighten it up some. That's going to help raise the deck up and get it to the point where I want it, which is right there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at it in relation to the rest of the mower now, because this deck was actually facing pretty far forward, and it looks pretty good. I like to keep the decks pretty high, because a lot of people like to cut grass high, and you got 6 height level adjusters. You can always lower it. Some people cut it on the ground, and even in the lowest sense, you're still cutting pretty close to the ground in this sense. So let's see. See how much higher that is now? And if we look in the back, it's still a little, still even higher. However, we still got one side to adjust. So let's see what we've got here. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And like I said, it's not a bad thing for the front to be a little bit lower than the back. You just want to make sure that they're even on both sides. That the front part of the mower is about the same height on both sides by doing what I just showed y'all, just kind of checking the height, and that the back is the same way, the same height roughly on both sides, so that you're not scalping the grass. So let me get the left side of it, and we'll see. I'll do a little bit of testing off camera, and we'll see how the deck looks after I work on the back part of it. Like I said, I think I'm gonna lower the back still just a little bit as well, and I'll get to that when I do. So this may be very rudimentary, and I'm sure I'll probably get a few comments about it, but I found a second oil filter box, and I'll try and show y'all with the light. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out the height of the blades on both sides using the same oil filter box, or using the same size box. And that blade on that side is still a little bit higher than the blade on this side. And I'll check this other part just to make sure that the blade isn't slightly bent or anything. And it's roughly the same. So I am going to continue raising the front of this deck, and then we will compare the sides of the deck, and we will compare the back of the deck in the same way, just to see if everything is even, or at least the front is even with the front, and the back is even with the back, and the goal is to get the back just slightly higher. So we'll see what we can do here. Okay, so now I'm down here on the front. Looks pretty even, which is good. And if we come up here, see this cover here on the left side of the deck? You see how it is still tilting down just a little bit? So that does tell me that there's still a little bit of tilt on the mower from front, a little bit lower in the front, a little bit higher in the back. So now what I'm going to do is relocate the oil filters to the back of the back of the mower, and we're going to see how the height is on that in comparison, one to the front and also on each side, to see if we've got it pretty even. Okay, so I checked the back and they are basically spot on with the front, height wise. So I'm spot on. I would like to be a little bit on the low side, and they may be just a tinge, but it is fine the way that it is. The one thing that you don't want is for the deck to be like this, because then, if you think about it, if you hit the right size rock, pole, whatever, it's going to be able to fit up under the bottom of the deck in the front, but then it's going to get caught in the back and probably caught in the blade. So just make sure, if it's not even, that it is facing maybe just a slight tilt, no more than maybe no more than maybe an 1/8 inch or so. You just want to make sure it's even on both sides. So now we're looking here on the sides, and I can tell when I have the dueling oil filters here from the prop, that the right side is just slightly lower than the left side now. So that is a good thing that we got that fixed. Now what I'm going to do next is grab a ratcheting 9/16 inch wrench, and we are going to adjust the right side of the mower deck up a little bit. So now it's easier, and you can take the oil filters and stuff off, but it's easier, put y'all this way. I'll show you all the nut here in just a second, which I showed you earlier. You can keep the oil filters and stuff under there for the time being. You can lower the deck a little bit. Back it up a little bit here. Okay. So, let me show you all this nut one more time. It's right there. So we're going to turn it up a little bit because we want to raise the back of the deck some, which, remember, we're ratcheting the reverse direction, so we're going to ratchet it to the left. It's going to be a little difficult because we're trying to raise it, but it will go. It probably doesn't need too many threads. As you can see, we've gone up maybe just a tinge there. And it's just, like I said, it's a pretty much guess and check philosophy. And again, and I don't know why I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, make sure your tire pressures are where they are supposed to be. The last thing you want is a mower that has unequal tire pressures and you go to fix the deck on it and it doesn't want to work right again. So let's see, we're up a little bit further now, thankfully. Up a little bit further on this side. Let's check the other side. Raising one side should, in effect, lower the other side just a slight bit. So we're about right there. Crush the box a little bit so you get the box back. Right, so let's check right there. And we're going to check one more time over here. just under a finger width. And again, like I said, these are pretty loose measurements, but I've tried getting a so it's about a finger there. So I'm going to keep tweaking on this a little bit more, see if I can get it going. Again, I'm sure there are better solutions than an oil filter box, but at least you can get consistency on both sides and get a relative height for each while you're at it. I'm going to keep working on this, but in essence the video is to show you how to level a deck, find a good reference point, whatever it may be. That's how you adjust the front, which is the way I showed you, and the way that earlier in the video, and then just what I showed you near the end of the video is how you adjust the rear of the deck, and also kind of adjust the side-to-side motion as well. Both of them kind of work in sync to get the side adjustments together. But measure kind of each corner of the deck, front, back, side corners, see if you've got it. I appreciate y'all watching. Again, just do your customers right. Get the mower decks aligned, get everything good so that your customer has a good riding mower, push mower, whatever piece of yard equipment that you're going to use. So thank y'all for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. I've got a lot more riding mower and push mower content coming over the rest of the winter season in preparation for spring. So stay tuned.